What is up? It's Andy checking in with you before Sunday, Week 2 Sunday. And as I stated yesterday on Francess and Friends, a show that you should definitely be checking out because you're getting picks, laughs, sniffs, everything in between. As I stated yesterday, maybe things haven't started so well for some of you. For whatever reason, maybe you took the Vikings in your eliminator pool. Now you're out of that. You're 0-1 in fantasy, and you face Devontae Smith and Kirk Cousins on Thursday night. Now you think you're going to fall to 0-2, and you're already telling yourself, oh, man, this isn't my year. It hasn't even started. We haven't even started to dip our toe into the pool. That's all we got. We're that first foot in on the kiddie pool. And anybody who started all right and, you started winning right away, don't worry if you haven't. This is like, remember when you were in middle school and you had to run the mile? Actually, haven't they gotten rid of gym classes? I mean, it's no surprise when I look at everybody out on the streets. I think they got rid of gym classes, but when there was gym class, you had to run the mile. And then there was always those few people who thought the best idea how to win the race, known as the mile, was to sprint right out the gate, and then they would sprint however many yards and then just walk the rest of the way. That's all we're at. So we're at that opening sprint. So don't feel so bad if things haven't started so well. And if you watch my videos through the years or you know me at all, once those bye weeks come along, that's when I start raking in DFS. That's when I've absorbed some information and can make some better informed decisions as far as the bets go. But that's not what you're here for. You're like, no. I need some bets and I need them now. And don't worry, that's what you're going to be getting because I'm going to be giving some revenge bets. You know me. I don't lose a bet and just let it go. I come to collect on bets that I lost previously. Like if somebody screwed me, aka a certain guy who got taken off the field. Now, look, he didn't screw me, but he got taken off the field to be evaluated for a concussion. I believe we would have hit an over last week. No, I'm coming for my over on yards. But really, all kidding aside, there are a couple picks out there that they didn't go the way that many would have hoped. Week 1, some guys who they weren't targeted, they had awful nights, T. Higgins. But the positive side of that is it pushed their number down just a tad that will allow us to take it. A number that we would have been thrilled to get a week ago, but now because it's a week later, always in the NFL, it's different than the NHL, it's different than other sports, you literally have to flush the toilet. Some players who were absolute garbage last week are going to be studs this week. I have a saying in DFS, week 1 duds equal week 2 studs. I'm going to be looking for some of those. And then, of course, the reason why you guys come here in the first place, sniffs. You want your sniffs. And I have a couple of those bets that just come in from it. Nobody's been talking about them. There's not a single video that's going to be talking about them. And I got 1 or 2 of those for you. So I got some good value picks. And I got some sniffs. That's why you guys are here. And you're also maybe here to take advantage of a great promotion. And I still got that deli slice promotion. Anybody who took advantage of it last week, they're fine because they got another 50 coming to them. That's the Caesar Sportsbook promotion. You're a new user on the platform. You deposit 50. They're going to give you 50 right then and there. Then 50 in a week. Then 50 in 2 weeks. 50 in 3. It's like it's like a bookie paying you out once a week. They come to like Soprano style. They show up at your door and drop off the weekly earnings or weekly losses, but you're getting 50 every single week. So you deposit 50, you get 250 over the course of 5 weeks. It's great for people who lack the discipline and would just spend the 250 right away. So definitely take advantage of that if you haven't already. Caesar's Sportsbook. So some of those revenge bets. That concussion that I told you about, my guy Mike Williams. Big Mike Williams fan does get injured a little bit too much for my liking. Yesterday on Francess and Friends, I put the idea out there. I was talking to Eric, and I was asking, could I feel comfortable taking the Chargers? The Chargers seem like they're in a bounce back spot. He said I wouldn't be so confident taking the Chargers, so he doesn't necessarily think they're going to win. I thought the Chargers would be in a good spot. They are giving you that, the stake in the woods line, -2.5. So rather than fall for it, maybe they're going to win. Did you hear that? Does that mean that they're going to win or that they're going to lose? Because I didn't plan for that. I don't know what the hell just fell. That's some sort of go. That's Patrick Swayze. Maybe, all right, I guess I'll take the Chargers money line. But the thing that I liked in there was Mike Williams, his over on reception yards. You're either going to find it in the high 50s Or maybe because I talked about it yesterday on Francess and Friends, it's at 60 or 61 right now. Regardless, you got no Austin Eckler in that game. You know they're reading those articles about how they weren't pushing the ball down the field. Kellen Moore, everyone's saying, wow, he isn't going to be that aggressive. So I think he's going, oh, I'll show you aggressive. I'll give you a grown-up. I believe he's going to take a couple shots down the field. We know Keenan Allen ain't doing that at this point in his career. They got one massive deep target who goes by the name Mike Williams. I'm going to take the over on his receiving yards. And then another guy from Monday night, Gabe Davis. I know their coach called and said we need a second pass catcher to show up here. I mean, hard to do that when he just keeps peppering Diggs with targets after Diggs complained all summer long. But Gabe Davis has a very low total. We know he runs deep routes. This should take one shot, and this is a bounce back spot. They got pretty embarrassed by the Jets. So I'm going to go back to that over on Gabe Davis. He only had a few catches, didn't hit his over week 1. It came down a little bit. Week 2 at home against a defense that isn't the New York Jets with the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm going to take the over on Gabe Davis receiving yards in this week 2 game. I got another Buffalo bet coming in a second or two, but these are the revenge bets. This one isn't revenge. We didn't take this guy week 1, but anytime you're like a Pro Bowl caliber receiver and you get a donut, the coaching staff, the quarterback, they want to get that right, and that is T. Higgins going up against a secondary. This isn't the old Baltimore secondary. They do not have a good defense. We didn't really learn about that last week because they played, Houston at home. But this is much different. Going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's beat them a couple straight times over there. And we've seen Jamar Chase go off on them, but more importantly, we've seen Burrow play pretty well against them. And T. Higgins has a pretty low total for how much of a talented player he is. That's just such a good number for T. Higgins. I guarantee you in 5 weeks, you're never really going to see that number next to T. Higgins' name. So I'm going to take the over on that. So there's a couple over on receiving yards there. Also, I do want to mention yesterday, you should check out the reasoning behind it, but I asked Lindy, I asked Laffy, the Shark Tank pitch duos. Lindy, Laffy, we're the Odd Shopper guys. Lindy liked Houston at home against Indy. I'm not meaning to rhyme like this. And Laffy liked Atlanta against Green Bay. It's so funny because many times you can find value in these rotten It's like, oh, I'm not too bad. Like, that's how I felt about Green Bay, Chicago last week when Aton was like, the value is all there with Green Bay. Green Bay, he was telling me, I'm like, come on, these are two teams. I don't trust the quarterbacks. Can anything happen? Well, sometimes there is some value to be gained in these scrub matchups between lower tier teams. So those were two suggestions for them. My personal suggestion is the San Francisco 49ers. I think we have an inflated version of what we think that the Rams are because Stafford had a great game. Look, Stafford's a great quarterback. But we know what happened with that offensive line last year, and there is no Cooper Kupp. This was supposed to be a bottom 5 team in the NFL. I think their whole projected win total was 5. And I'm not going to overvalue a win against a team that may have been overvalued in the Seahawks because of the season they had last year. So, in my opinion, you're getting a team that just went into Pittsburgh and absolutely crushed them, going against a team who they historically dominate. Shanahan dominates McVay. And I think if it's just 6.5, 7 points, I'm going to go with the Niners because I imagine that line is going to absolutely obliterate the Rams line. And then in that game, a couple of props, and then going back to the receivers. This guy didn't underperform last week, but he was the star shined on the other receiver in Brandon Ayuk, and then obviously McCaffrey had the big game. In an offense like that, I think that's another one like the Bengals where they want to kind of keep everyone happy, and it rotates like Richard Lewis on his toilet in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Uses a different one around the house every single week. I think this is a good game for Deebo Samuel. I'm going to take the over on his receiving yards, which is, I could be wrong. I believe I saw it in the 40s, maybe high 40s. Tell me it's mid 40s. Tell me it's low 40s. And I'm going with that adjusted receiving total at like 60 plus. Then George Kittle, we know he had a good rapport, and I understand once Deebo came back for the playoffs this year, his kind of target share went down and whatnot, but we have seen Purdy have good chemistry, honestly, with all these guys. But Kittle was relatively quiet last game. I think him and Debo are going to have some solid numbers this game, along with a sniff. One of the sniffs, you're not really hearing about this unless maybe somewhere you are. I'm taking the Brock Purdy over 1.5 touchdowns. I really like this guy. Hasn't lost any game that he's started, pretty much undefeated in the regular season, and he looks so smooth out there. Opening day, Heinz Field, I don't know what they called the field now, on the road, just making it look easy. And it's been that way since he started, and now I'm really starting to, I feel like he's going to turn that corner. Now, granted, I think if you throw him on a random team, you throw him on Seattle, he's not even going to be that great, but it's the perfect marriage between quarterback and head coach, and I'm looking for him to throw over 1.5 touchdowns because I think it's going to be an absolute beating. It is the NFL, and anything can possibly happen, but just the way that they have played the Rams, other than the one playoff game, they had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they dropped an interception in the end of the fourth to win the game. Shanahan has beat McVay every single time, and Debo especially tends to murder them on the ground and through the air. Doesn't run as much anymore because they got a couple of running backs, but still, I expect all those Niners to kick some serious arse out there in week 2. One last sniff that I have. I did take the over on Gabe Davis yards. Yes, we did. But I also want to take the over on Cook's rushing yards. I don't know why I was going to say Dalvin Cook. James Cook. That sounds like a fake name. Like Dalvin Cook, that sounds like a name. You wouldn't think his brother's just going to be James. Jimmy Cook. Well, I'm taking Jimmy Cook for his over on rushing yards. He actually had a good amount of work last week. We saw very little Damian Harris and also minimal Latavius Murray. What is Latavius Murray doing in that 2-minute drill? That was ridiculous. But what Allen said after the game, he kind of was saying, I can't believe I'm sitting here and I said this to you again. I threw it away. I think their head coach, who's defensive in nature, I think McDermott's going to take the ball out of his hands as much as possible against an extremely beatable team. They know they need a win. Allen started this season off, like I said, I don't like when you end the season that way. He came right back in throwing picks and everything. While I do think Gabe Davis is going to get his over on receiving yards, I believe if they take a lead in this game, they're not going to just let him continue to wing it around. It's really been causing that team a lot of problems in these last games going back to last season. It almost lost them that playoff game versus Miami. I think they're going to need to start refining the way that offense works because I don't think Josh Allen is the guy from 2 seasons ago where you weren't getting as many turnovers. It's looking more like a marriage of the two Allens. The guy we saw from that great year, plus the guy who turns it over all the time. And I think the coach is going to pull the reins back. What does that mean? James Cook, Jimmy Cook, I will take the over. That's what I got for you here going into week 2. Good luck to you. Better luck to me. A couple of different things for you. Number 1, obviously, make sure you're subscribed to this Odd Shopper channel. Like and comment on this video. Go watch Francess and Friends if you like these kinds of it. If you like to be entertained, if you're that guy who just wants to hear, I like the San Francisco 49ers -6.5. I like the over on Gabe Davis yards. And if you just like some chat GPT version of getting your picks, then yeah, maybe it wouldn't be for you. But check out that show. I write some of it throughout the week. Those writers are on strike, but I'm not. And it really would mean a lot for me if you guys check that out, comment, and engage with those videos because that's what's going to keep the show alive. Send it to some of your friends, and then come follow me on social media. It's at Andy Francess on every single platform there is. I will be back with you guys and check in, hopefully with a bunch of good news to report before Monday Night Football. Take it easy and good luck.